Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome to War Room Pandemic, episode 273, broadcasting live here from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., Friday, July the 10th, the year of our Lord 2020, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, America's Voice.News, broadcast through the CCP's firewall by G News and GTV, subtitled in Mandarin, and later in the day on Newsmax. You're in the War Room with Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, and our special co-host for the first hour, Steve Cortez, joins us in the War Room. Welcome, Steve.
You bet. Great to be here.
I also want to throw it over to Stephen K. Bannon.
Yeah, I really want to welcome in Steve Cortez. He's done such a good job, really great job for us the last couple of weeks, talking about the anarchy and the collapse of law and order. Yesterday, Steve spent the entire day over at the White House. They had the Hispanic Prosperity Council. We're going to get more of that at the bottom of the hour, and particularly some blowback has already happened on some Hispanic leaders who are participating in it. But I think you'll find it fascinating how the Hispanic community could hold the key to a Trump victory. But before we get to that, Steve Cortez, you know, I continue to tell people all the time, you're known as a defender of MAGA, as one of the people that really understood economic nationalism. And a lot of people just think of you as a commentator or somebody that was a Trump surrogate or defender during 2016. And clearly your stint at CNN. But what they don't realize is that you're one of the smartest financial guys around. You've been trading your own money. You've been in the pits of Chicago. You've also been an advisor to hedge funds, financial institutions for your entire career. That's really your profession. And yesterday we had to watch Joe Biden really get up there and I think try to steal a march on the Trump campaign and the Trump White House by going pure economic nationalist. I mean, this is a guy that's been a globalist his entire life, but he goes back to Scranton, Pennsylvania, an area that's absolutely central to a Trump victory, essential in 2016, very central in 2020. And he really kind of gives basically a watered-down version of President Trump's economic nationalism, calling it a Buy American program. Right. Before we get into some clips from Biden, you were the first, I think, of the sophisticated Wall Street guys that really got in back of MAGA and really got in back of the economic nationalism. What is it that you saw as a Wall Street guy that said, hey, this guy's really onto something. I think it's very important, and I think it can win.
Right. You know, Steve, I will tell you as a bit of a confessional, I was a Wall Street Republican. I believed in quote, free trade. Donald Trump convinced me, for example, that we never had free trade. It didn't exist. We had incredibly managed trade in this country, and it was managed to the benefit of massive corporations, of the corporatist, connected globalist elites, and against the interest of American workers. He convinced me of that, and so I try to speak of it now with the zeal of a convert, as somebody who has been won over to the side of American nationalism. I find it interesting and to some degree almost amusing that Joe Biden, of all people, is now trying to pick up this mantra. It was a bit of a copy and paste speech where he literally took some of the talking points of Donald Trump and of the America First movement and is trying to make them his own. It won't work for a couple of reasons. Number one is his extensive record, his nearly half century in the Washington swamp. He is a Washington swamp dinosaur who has literally dedicated his professional life to exporting American jobs overseas. For him to now try to pick up and carry the banner of American economic nationalism would be like O.J. Simpson suddenly becoming an advocate for battered spouses. This is absurd on its face, given his record. But secondly, and I think this is also really important, when we look at the outlook of actual policy proposals, not just what has he done in the past, Joe Biden, what would he do if he wins the presidency? today and going forward, in November and going forward, he has promised us, for example, that he would rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. He has promised us that he will rejoin the TPP. All of this tells us that he believes in a world of multilateralism where American sovereignty is surrendered to the interests of the Davos crowd and the globalist elites. So if we actually look beyond his nice-sounding phrases and look at the meat of the policies that he's proposing, we see an agenda that is the antithesis of American economic nationalism. The people aren't going to fall for it.
Look, I think you've hit the two key points. Number one, he's been not just a globalist. I mean, I would argue that he's been one of the leading globalists in the United States Senate. What he's had to do in his productive adult life is really push not to multilateralism, but essentially globalism, where the United States is just one of any number of nations that can be bossed around. We really don't have our sovereignty anywhere. The other thing is when you look into the proposal he's talking about, a lot of it's just the rehashed policies of Hillary Clinton and others over the last decade, I should say, the failed policies. And you're absolutely correct. Two of the central things in there, he wants to rejoin TPP, and he wants to go into the Paris Accords, which is, and this is not an argument about climate change or should we focus on climate change or what's the science about climate change. That the Paris Accord is essentially a way for the Chinese Communist Party to have unlimited growth on the back of working class people throughout the world. They pay for it. The whole, I said yesterday, the Gilets Jaunes revolt in Paris, the Yellow Vests, was because of taxes put on diesel fuel in these rural communities and small communities throughout France that they had to pay to basically make up the difference of what the Chinese Communist Party had done to the environment. And so Biden's thing's replete with that. The one thing I want to toss us back to Raheem and Jack and the team and Greg is that does the Biden campaign owe War Room pandemic consulting fee? I mean, it looked like they ripped off. And this is how phony it is. It looked like they ripped off even some of our phraseology about, hey, you got a pandemic, you got a health crisis that's triggered an economic crisis. I don't want to compare this to the Neil Kinnock ripoff of plagiarism, but this once again shows that Biden's not a guy that really comes up with original ideas. Steve Cortez's thing about cut and paste. It's like we know the Chinese Communist Party intelligence services listen to War Room Pandemic, but now it's obvious that the Biden's campaign team listens to it too, because a lot of the cut and paste was off of stuff we've talked about over the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, Steve, we actually have a clip of that moment as well, so the audience can hear it. I mean, every single morning you open this show with kind of a very similar mantra, and it hits the thing on the head every time. And let's play this Joe Biden clip to just hear how much he sounds like Stephen K. Bannon.
This is the kind of small manufacturing business that demonstrates that the resilience, the creativity, and the staying power of the American industrial base. I'm not telling you anything new, but we're living through a time unlike any other in American history. Our country is facing 3 simultaneous crises: a pandemic that's infected over 3 million Americans and cost thus far over 130,000 lives. Bobby, 3 times a week I'm on the phone with the national folks, the docs who were head up CDC and other places before. The expectation is that they may get as high as 200,000 before it's over. And it shows no sign of slowing down. We have an economic crisis that's left almost 18 million Americans out of work, with some of the greatest pain inflicted on small businesses and communities of color. A national reckoning on the issue of racial injustice that's long plagued the United States of America, long plagued our country, has come on top of a widening economic inequity and a mounting climate crisis.
Steve, he's got that Stephen K. Bannon energy as well.
You have a pandemic that's triggered an economic crisis, that's triggered a financial crisis, that obviously has triggered a social crisis, and with that, the geopolitical crisis with the hegemon or the rising hegemon of China. It shows you, I think it's pretty close to the Neil Kinnock. So somebody ought to draw up a bill and let's send it over to the Biden campaign, and let's make sure that they're a sponsor of the show. Back to Steve Cortez, on a serious note, the reason they copied this is, our show has not an insignificant amount of Bernie followers, of people who are of that wing of the Bernie party that is economic nationalists. You know, union people, people that believe that manufacturing jobs have to come back. They're not particularly huge fans of President Trump on all his issues, but they understood from the beginning, like you did, that this guy represented something different. He was going to take on China. He was going to bring manufacturing jobs back. The team around Biden, this is why I think it's very serious to take this speech and really get off top of it. They are focusing a lot of that speech to the union people and to the Bernie followers. I mean, if you go through there, it's a laundry list of what the Bernie followers want. And look, it's in those upper Midwest states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, where I think we're much closer than we want to be. The key to those is also bringing in union Democrats for things other than cultural issues, the Second Amendment, but bring union Democrats in, and also the economic nationalists in Bernie's movement, either have them stay home or hopefully vote for President Trump. I'd like to get your thoughts on specifically how he's A, ripping off War Room Pandemic, and B, how smart it is for him to focus his speech to kind of these Bernie people.
You know, Steve, I completely concur that that's the real point here. I really believe this was a speech to disaffected Bernie voters. And I've taken the Bernie voters, by the way, very seriously from the beginning, unlike a lot of my sort of friends in the MAGA movement. I say, look, clearly we have a lot of disagreements with Bernie himself and with the Bernie voters. However, as you point out, they are economic nationalists. And I believe that we can win over a certain percentage of them, particularly on issues related to China. I think there's also a certain percentage that we can convince, if we can't win them to our side, to stay home and to not vote for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden, again, economically, is the antithesis of what Bernie voters want. For instance, in that clip we played, Joe Biden mentioned that communities of color have been suffering lately in this country because of the pandemic, and that's certainly true, both economically and in terms of actual street safety. When we look at communities of color, this is important. Let's look at the actual data. When he was vice president, when President Obama was president of the United States, during the slow growth years of that economic recovery, that extremely sluggish economic recovery, all of the benefits, basically, of that recovery went to the very top end. In other words, if you were an owner of assets or real estate, if you had a lot of stocks, a lot of real estate holdings, those were salad years for you. For working class people, which includes most minorities, of course, it was an absolute slog. And because of that, we saw the differential between white household wealth and black and Hispanic, and I know we're going to talk Hispanic issues more later in the show, but we saw that differential between white household wealth and minority household wealth widen massively during the Obama-Biden years. What we have seen during the Trump presidency until we got hit by the CCP virus was the exact opposite. We saw, as a matter of fact, Hispanics, and particularly Hispanic men, leap to the front of income gains in this country. So again, he has no legs to stand on. But to your point, Steve, we need to take him seriously on this, because even though the behind the words is a hollow agenda, we still have to take the words seriously. And I think we as a movement, the America First movement, as nationalists, we need to respectfully appeal to the Bernie voter and say, we're never going to agree on everything, but we really agree on China, and you cannot vote for Beijing Biden.
Look, the Bernie, we 100% agree with you. It's one of the reasons we treat the Bernie guys with a tremendous amount of respect. They're absolutely central to the Trump. They're part of the Trump coalition. It's not all of them. It's maybe 15 or 20%. But and I realize some of the union guys up in the men and women in the upper Midwest are for cultural reasons like Second Amendment. But there are a lot that are economic nationalists. And this speech, and I would have liked to seen a more organized and focused counter to this speech already. I think today they should have flooded the zone with people like you and Peter Navarro and others.
I've got a couple of policy proposals, too, which I'm happy to get into if we want to do that now, of what I think action items that the president can do to counter and to make sure that the people, to reinforce with the people that economic nationalism is his banner, not Joe Biden's.
We'll do it after the break, gentlemen.
Yeah.
We gotta go to a quick break now. Pay some bills. We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic. Make sure you're in on the conversation. # War Room Pandemic. Make sure you're in on the YouTube live chat, the Facebook live chat. You're leaving reviews. Download the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed. Pandemic.warroom.org is the URL where you can get the newsletter every day put together by Carl Olbert and the show notes put together by Greg Mann. So you can go through and look at every link to every single thing we discuss on this show. Full transparency. Make your minds up yourselves. Jack Maxey, Steve Cortez, Greg Manns, Raheem Kassam, Stephen K. Bannon. We'll be right back.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now. Introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy on, easy off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy on, easy off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to go do things after a day of work. They just slip right on, yet they still have that same compression that you want.
A soft cushion footbed for all-day comfort.
I'm on my feet at least 9 to 10 hours a day. These were fantastic. A lot of compression socks are a little too thin, especially for what I do. With Copperfit, I could wear these every day.
Feel more energized. Feel more active. Just feel better.
They just hug your leg. It relieves all the pressure that you have. I have so much energy, I can go, hey, you want to dance?
The first ever easy on, easy off compression sock. The most comfortable compression sock you will ever wear. Get your Copperfit Energy Socks now online at GetEnergySocks.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-978-1224. Order right now and we'll include a second pair of compression socks free.
I've never felt anything like it before.
No more pain, no more swelling, no more achy, tired feet.
I can never go back to regular compression socks again.
Don't settle for ordinary. Ask for the original by name, Copperfit Energy Socks.
For everyone like you making their business work online, there are people searching, headed in your direction. For every detail you adjust, there are potential customers digging deeper. For every photo you position, there are others watching and wondering. So since people are still looking for what you do online, GoDaddy is making it possible for you to create a website for free.
Nice technique with that knife there.
Start now at GoDaddy.com.
This is Kate.
Hey.
She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room. Greg Manns, Jack Maxey. Special guest in studio, Steve Cortez, joins us here in the War Room. Over to Stephen K. Bannon.
You know, anytime that a globalist like Joe Biden is now taking on the mantle of an economic nationalist, there are going to be turbulent times ahead. One of the reasons people are doing this is they're trying to put America first and America workers first, and they understand that that's a winning ticket in America in 2020. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be at the lead of seeing us through this economic crisis, or economic inferno, as we refer to it on the pandemic. NetSuite by Oracle is that platform. It's a software platform that ties everything together that you need as an entrepreneur. Whether your company's $1 million in revenue or $100 million in revenue, you need Oracle NetSuite. And here's why. Oracle is the #1 platform on the cloud. NetSuite's the #1 tool for entrepreneurs. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, BANNON, to get your 7-page, your 7 action steps for every entrepreneur has to take today. It's must read. NetSuite by Oracle. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, BANNON today. Jack Maxey, I realize we didn't have time to get you in, but you had some good insights on the Biden thing before we start talking about Joe Biden and the stock market.
Well, you know, Biden's plan, he's going to spend all this money, but it's very, very thin on detail. Now, CNN reports that he did show a fact sheet. He allowed them to take a look at it. Now, what I think the listeners would find very interesting, the top line on there was clean vehicle technology, electric vehicle technology. How are we going to bring back our manufacturing when every single one of those rare earth minerals that make up those batteries comes from China and is mined by slave labor in Africa? That doesn't sound like a winning strategy to me, Steve.
Yeah, and Jack, you found something yesterday as well that we read on the show that was it was Biden's coronavirus plan, right? And you read some key lines off that, which also applies to the hypocrisy and all of this. Steve Cortez mentioned it in the A block, but it bears repeating. He quote re-embrace international engagement, including prioritizing sustained funding for global health security above and beyond emergency appropriations, and a Biden administration will recommit the United States to the Paris Agreement on day one. These things do not work together. Right. You cannot have a buy American, bring American jobs back plan while saying at the same time, hey, yeah, we're pro TPP, we'll throw a ton of money, prioritize, their words, prioritize global health initiatives and rejoin the Paris Agreement, Steve.
Cortez, this is the fact. I mean, the guys around Biden may not be Einstein's cousin, but the people around him are very smart. They understand in America in 2020, you have to preach nationalism. You have to preach economic nationalism. They know what the notes are. You can see it in that speech. Right. That's a lift. It's a watered down lift of a President Trump fire-breathing populist economic national speech he would give in Pennsylvania. But buried in there is exactly what he intends with the TPP. You mentioned it with the Paris Accord. The guys caught yesterday with a super WHO. It's all Joe Biden is what he is, and he's a globalist. He's been a globalist for 40 years. Not a particularly bright guy. That's kind of the stooge of Wilmington, Delaware. But one of the things I thought was most telling, and this is how smart the guys around are. Let's go to this clip on the stock market, which I thought was the punchline in the speech yesterday, and I want to have Brother Cortez analyze this for us.
Yeah, let's roll the clip of Joe Biden discussing the stock market. Let's roll it.
The truth is, throughout this crisis, Donald Trump has been almost singularly focused on the stock market, the Dow and NASDAQ. Not you, not your families. If I am fortunate enough to be elected president, I'll be laser focused on working families, the middle-class families I came from here in Scranton, not the wealthy investor class. They don't need me, but working families do. And this should be, in my view, the guiding principle. We must reward work as much as we've rewarded wealth. But now we just reward excessive wealth. You see, growing up rich and looking down on people is a bit different than how I grew up here. Here, nobody thought and understood, nobody thought but also knew that Wall Street bankers and CEOs didn't build this country, didn't build it. You can just look around your neighborhood or your kitchen table and see who built this country.
Okay, Steve. First off, I think we'll have an analysis in the next segment with when Cortez talks about the Hispanic vote, about the Joe Biden. It just countered the whole Black Lives Matter mantra. But I want to talk about, to Cortez, since you're a Wall Street guy, this thing about the stock market. Please remember what Steve Cortez said in the last segment. The greatest transfer of wealth in mankind's history, the greatest transfer of wealth in mankind's history happened on the Joe Biden, Barack Obama watch from 2009 until the time that President Trump took the oath of office in January of 2017. The balance sheet of the Federal Reserve went from $880 billion to $4.5 trillion. The infusion of that liquidity, that capital, was the lift, as Cortez said, asset prices. So if you own real estate, stocks, if you're a hedge fund, you had the greatest run in history. And that was because when Joe Biden could make decisions, what he did is save the investor class. And it had sluggish growth for everything else. Cortez makes the great point. I'd like to see the campaign in the White House hammering every day about the strivers economy. Donald Trump's economy up to the time the pandemic hit was a striver's economy. And yes, you do need a robust and strong capital market. There's nothing wrong with the stock market doing well. We need that to raise capital, to build more manufacturing, to issue capital, issue stock to raise capital, equity capital, and bonds to grow our country. There's nothing wrong with that. But when Steve, when Biden was in charge, all they focused on was the investor class. That's where you had the top 1%, had the greatest run in their history under Joe Biden and Barack Obama.
Right. No, let's remember that. The Obama years, the Obama-Biden years, as I mentioned before, they were salad days for the owners of assets. So a lot of people, a lot of elites, a lot of people, the permanent political class and their allies in corporations and corporate America, they did incredibly well. And they really forgot during those years that there's a massive country of America between Brooklyn and Brentwood that they just fly over and pay no attention to. And most of the workers in that country were suffering during the slog of the Obama years. Now, I think it's important for us, of course, to point out the hypocrisy of Joe Biden, that he is trying to some degree to steal our mantra. We can't allow that. But I think it's also important, Steve, for us to put forward policy proposals for us to further advance economic nationalism, American nationalism. And I've got a couple of ideas that the president can do without Congress, because, of course, we know Nancy Pelosi's not going to do anything to cooperate with him between now and the election. But a couple of things that I think would show, once again, which would action items to demonstrate to the American people how strong we are as a movement and the president is on American nationalism. One relates to imports. The president can unilaterally, he doesn't need to go to Congress, he can deny a lot of imports that are produced by slave labor. Jack mentioned earlier slave labor. This is a serious problem in the world today, and the CCP is the foremost antagonist of utilizing slave labor or quasi-slave labor in the world. We can start to say we will not accept imports. Under U.S. law, we can already do this. The president can do that unilaterally, and I encourage him to do so. The second thing is regarding immigration. Joe Biden, and I think this is crucial too, Joe Biden cannot pretend to be an economic nationalist and reconcile that supposed view, that posing view of his, with the reality that he favors open borders. He has already told us on the record, this is not my opinion, he has told us on the record he wants full taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens in the United States. He's also told us that he wants full citizenship and voting rights for the 20 million plus illegal aliens in the United States. That is the opposite of economic nationalism. And in terms of an action item, President Trump's been really strong on this issue lately. He's put serious restrictions upon worker visas. I would encourage him to go even further. I would advocate, for example, that all immigration should halt temporarily while we get this country back to where we were at the heights of the Trump boom just a few months ago. And until we do, not just restrict and eliminate worker visas, but in my view, all immigration. I think that would demonstrate to the people as an action item that we take economic nationalism really seriously.
Yeah, you notice that Biden in his talk yesterday wasn't buy American, hire American. It was none of that, and those are great points. Let me go back. We only got a couple minutes left, and Raheem and those guys can jump in after you, but it was a pretty powerful thing, though, to say about this too much focus on the stock market. What do you say, Steve? You're a Wall Street guy. Is the messaging wrong here? We want a robust capital market, but has Biden's guys done some polling and they see a way to get to the Trump voter, particularly the Bernie guys, by doing this?
And the Bernie voters. Yeah, listen, I will always concede when the opposition does something smart. This is a smart tack. It's disingenuous and it's hypocritical, but it is smart of them to try, right? It won't work, in my view, but it's smart of them to try.
Raheem, Jack, what do you guys think about how this messaging going with this Buy American yesterday?
Look, I think we all agreed before we went live on the show that this was Biden's best performance yet yesterday. I mean, even though he was drowned out by the birds, or were they crickets? But it was still him at his most cognizant, his most. I guess he was folksy. He actually came across like he was telling stories about his childhood. It was interesting like that. But there's one thing that came to mind for me is exactly what you just hit on, Steve. Donald Trump said, "Buy American." Joe Biden has effectively been saying, "Bye-bye, American," right, for this whole time. And that's the distinction that the campaign needs to make. The Trump campaign.
Yeah, I think
Steve,
Jack
I'd love,
jump in. He also did. Go ahead.
I just love to know what those birds were saying. I think we need Dr. Doolittle in here. They're up there going, man, this guy's so full of BS, back and forth to each other. Listen to this nut job. The other thing I think was kind of funny in our last segment, we were talking about, Biden constantly stealing from other people, from Neil Kinnock, from law school on forward. We said Gore invented the internet. I think Joe Biden invented cut and paste.
Right, we got to go to a quick break here. Steve Bannon, Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Steve Cortez, Raheem Kassam, all in the war room for you this morning. Do us one little favor. Hit those share buttons, those like buttons. Make sure more people see the show. Hashtag War Room Pandemic returns after this short break.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
From roof to foundation, the damage to your home can be devastating, from clogged gutters, leaking roofs, rotting wood and fascia, and flooded basements. Protect your entire home with Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system. Once our ladders go up, you can put yours down forever.
One of the things that I like the most is that I don't have to get back on the ladder anymore.
Leaf Filter starts by cleaning, sealing, and realigning your gutters. We then install our micro mesh screen over your existing gutters, which is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water.
Trying other products is what made us finally go to Leaf Filter.
And Leaf Filter's lifetime transferable warranty makes it an extraordinary value.
Leaf Filter is going to make my home more valuable, especially when I go to sell it.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Call or log on today and save 15%.
America's Voice News brings you real news and real opinion in a real world. If you care about this country, then you can help by sharing America's Voice with your friends and family. We're here to bring you the truth with no agendas. America is one of the greatest countries of all time. We need a great leader to keep us on track and safe. If you support this president, then help us by being a beacon of hope and standing up for this great nation. Join us as we fight to bring you the truth in a crazy world. Search America's Voice News on all apps, Roku, Pluto TV, and Dish Network Channel 219. Please help by downloading America's Voice News to your phone, on your smart TV. Search America's Voice on all your internet-connected devices. Then share the truth with your friends and family. America's Voice News, the real news network. Join the America's Voice revolution and consider yourself an American patriot.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, 2020's been a gut punch to American business, and if you're going to succeed, you need every possible advantage. Smart companies run on NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. We're grateful to have NetSuite as a sponsor of the show. Get your free guide right now at netsuite.com/Bannon. You're back in the war room with Steve Cortez, Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, and Raheem Kassam. Guys, Greg, you actually had some insight on this Biden speech, and the audience is always keen for the Greg Manns minute. So give it to us.
Something we can't forget is Joe Biden didn't take any questions from reporters. So when is the media going to hold him accountable to answer their questions about what he said and what he said in the past and what his vision for America is?
It's such a great point, because when President Trump, as much as he does take questions from reporters, the odd occasions where he doesn't, he gets lambasted by CNN. Trump won't answer questions. Trump's afraid of the press. Trump doesn't doesn't want accountability. And Jack Maxey noted as well, the Biden campaign allowed reporters to see a sheet of paper, but they didn't keep the sheet of paper. They weren't allowed to keep the quote-unquote fact sheet with the information from yesterday. I want to throw up this graphic as well, if we can, of the Biden the Biden audience there. This was the audience for the video crowd watching this on YouTube live stream, Facebook live stream, America's Voice. Look at this audience. That's why in the clips that we're playing of Joe Biden, you hear the birds chirping louder than anything else. The juxtaposition here, quite frankly, is so stark, and it should be stark to everyone, not just in the United States, all around the world, watching. Hey, okay, I get it. The Trump campaign promised 1 million people in Oklahoma, we didn't get it, whatever. That's worthy of some criticism, but at least they had a crowd. At least they had thousands and thousands of people there.
That picture.
What's this?
Right.
8 people. They had 8 people in
Raheem, that
Scranton.
picture really just exemplifies and demonstrates the enthusiasm gap, which is very, very real in this country. There are literally Trump voters who will crawl over glass to go and vote for President Trump. One of the things I was pointing out, I talked to a lot of the folks who are in the White House press corps, and I'm personally friendly with a lot of them, even though I professionally can't stand what they do. And I was telling them, can you find, for example, also indicative of this reality, can you find a Biden flag out there? Is there a Biden flag on the back of a boat, on the back of a pickup truck in America? My guess is no. You can find Trump flags on boats and pickup trucks everywhere, particularly if you get out of the big city. Maybe not here in Washington, D.C., but when you go to country America, it is everywhere, the enthusiasm. This is again, exemplifies that enthusiasm gap.
And there are houses decorated with, like, MAGA, right? You're not going to get that with, what are you going to have? A picture of Joe asleep on the front of your house?
Not to defend Biden and the enthusiasm gap, but I was looking at those circles, and I was wondering, did they play geriatric Twister after the speech there?
Okay, Steve, you were in the White House yesterday, and we want to get into why you were there. But first, I just want to wrap up on this Biden claim, because in the last clip we played, you heard him talk about who built this country. But here he is on another occasion talking about a different group that built this country. Maybe he is just pandering to every single... Let's roll this clip, this H-1B clip.
Through his backlog. And by the way, he just indicated he ended H-1B visas the rest of this year. That will not be in my administration. The people on the coming these visas have built this country.
Well,
by the way, that was just an absolute appalling statement from Joe Biden.
You asked other parts of a question. I can't remember
for some reason
what
we're playing
other
it
ones
again.
were. One.
But now, hold on. Well, let's just jump to this next one, because another point, another town hall, and I want to make sure that I caveat this clip properly. This was Joe Biden criticizing European culture, but let's listen to what he says about the foundation of the United States.
The culture, our culture, our culture. It's not imported from some African nation or some Asian nation. It's our English jurisprudential culture, our European culture.
Who built this country, Steve? Because I'm getting mixed messages from Sleepy Joe.
Look, he's clearly a political chameleon trying to please whatever constituency he thinks he's speaking to, at that moment. Also, by the way, just the creepy way that he sort of whispers culture. It's creepy. But anyway, regardless of that, on the substance of it, here's what's important is, to your point, Raheem, there is no consistent narrative there's no consistent ideology to Joe Biden. It's all expediency. It's all what he thinks will work at the moment. And for him to say, that was an NBC News town hall, for him to say that foreign guest workers built this country is an abomination. It is a shot to the solar plexus of every hardworking American. Americans built this country. Actually, when I heard it, I was so appalled. I did a MAGA Minute video. I post one just about every day on my Twitter. Please watch them, @CortezSteve. And that video went nuts. And that is, I think, one indication of the level of frustration out there with being told that importing cheaper labor from India, that's what built this country via the H-1B program. No, Joe Biden. Americans built this country.
So tell us about you yesterday, where you were, while you were there, and specifically, there was something trending on Twitter all night last night, and there's this huge furore about it this morning.
Right.
Let's get into all of that.
So I was at the White House yesterday most of the day, spent a lot of time with the president, with some very senior advisors. I was very honored to be named to the White House Commission on Hispanic Prosperity. So it's a group of Hispanic leaders from around the country, some of whom have been on the show before, not just me, Alfredo Ortiz, who you know from the Job Creators Network. It was a group of heavy hitters, a dozen of us, who are going to advise the president on policies that will be particularly impactful for Hispanics. The issue that I am taking up in that regards of the commission is school choice, because way too many Hispanic children around America, a lot of Americans, but particularly Hispanics, are trapped in failing or substandard government schools. I want educational choice for those families, for those parents, so that they can be empowered to be successful Americans. It was a great event. We signed an executive order. We had a roundtable. Some of it was private, some of it with the public. We were in the Rose Garden for quite a long time. It was about 185 degrees, and we're in suit and tie. This really is the swamp, literally the swamp.
Really is awful.
But unfortunately, and here's, I think we need to talk about this because it's important. So Bob Unanue, who is the owner and CEO of Goya Foods, he's part of this council. And it is, I believe, the largest Hispanic-owned business in America. He has 4,500 employees. It's almost a century old. Was started by his grandfather. Hispanic households around America, around the world for that matter, but particularly around America and Puerto Rico, have literally been cooking. They've had Goya in their kitchen for generations. It's an absolute staple line of spices, beans, tortillas.
It's like me with Heinz baked beans.
So, yeah, exactly. Like that would be to a Brit. He's an amazing man. It's an incredible company. And by the way, of their 4,500 employees, of course, many of them Hispanic Americans. This is a fantastic success story. It's part of why he was named to this important commission that I was honored to be named to. Well, once he stood up in the Rose Garden and said nice things about President Trump, not particularly political things, by the way, just talking about prosperity for America and for Hispanics, he was absolutely assaulted on social media. The blue check woke mob took after him immediately, including, by the way, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You would hope that a sitting congresswoman, Hispanic American, would respect a Hispanic success story like Goya Foods. But no, instead, you are canceled because you dared to praise President Trump, because you dare to think politically in a way different from how we think. And so, unfortunately, it trended. It was the #1 trend on Twitter last night. I think it's still significant today on social media, was to boycott Goya. Now, I see very little chance of that actually happening. But nonetheless, I think we need to really take head on and attack this pernicious culture out there among the left of intimidation. We don't want to win the battle of ideas through persuasion. We want to do it through intimidation. We're going to make it. This is really what the left does in America today, when they're not actually being physically violent, and there's far too much of that. But when they're not being physically violent, what they're trying to do is make it socially and culturally unacceptable to be an American nationalist, to be a Trump supporter. And in addition to that, and we see this with Goya, they want to also financially punish you for daring to think politically in a different way. This has never been part of the American story, never part of our culture, our politics. It's wrong. We have to take it on in forceful terms, and I encourage everyone out there, go buy some Goya Foods and support this great company.
I'm watching the YouTube live chat, and actually a lot of people are already saying, as you've been speaking, I've got Goya, I'm going to buy Goya, buy Goya right now.
Please do.
Because we do need action to combat the action from the left. I want to play this clip, Jack. Can we? Or
Sure,
do you want to jump in
ahead.
here? Should we play?
No.
Let's play the clip from the White House yesterday. Then we'll get Jack Maxey to weigh in on it as well. The Goya CEO yesterday in the White House.
At the same time, to have a leader like President Trump, who is a builder. And that's what my grandfather did. He came to this country to build, to grow, to prosper. And so we have an incredible builder, and we pray. We pray for our leadership, our president, and we pray for our country that we will continue to prosper and to grow. Today, I have an announcement to make that the Gran Familia Goya wanted to share with all of you.
Shockingly political.
Right. No.
Oh,
that's
we've
my
got
point
a
too.
leader and a builder. Wow.
I mean, he was literally talking about the immigrant experience of his family, about building a business, about praying for our country, about prosperity. Okay, this was not MAGA fire breathing, right? You might have gotten that from me if you'd given me the microphone. But this was literally just a patriotic American speech, or short speech that was given by Bob Unanue, and yet the left says he must be canceled for that. His company must be punished for that. I think we need to be very clear-eyed about what the opposition is doing here. The intolerant left. These are liberal fascists, and they don't believe in the marketplace of ideas. They believe in intimidation.
Remember, Jack, this is the guy. He's complimenting the guy who won the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, which is a distinction handed to the sons and daughters of immigrants who have built in the United States, Jack.
Well, let's also take a look at the Democrat hypocrisy here, right? You have this Hispanic family, the most successful Hispanic-owned business in America. These people are amazing Americans. I lived in Puerto Rico for many years. I have eaten Goya products every single day of my life. Will continue to do it. Had an office near their plant in Bayamon. They are an amazing American success story. And watch the left now absolutely attacking this amazing Hispanic family. But could you imagine if the right attacked, say, some Hispanic who was in support of Joe Biden on the same basis, decided that we were never going to buy any of Mark Cuban's products and not go to his basketball games? People would think that's outrageous, and it's outrageous here too. And it shows you the nonsense concerning their concern for minorities and their concern for each one of their little constituent groups. Let me tell you, you leave the reservation, you have a target in your back, and they are going to try and take you down. They're not your friend. They're not America's friend. They are interested in only one thing, power. They don't care if they have to destroy people, statues, or cities to get it. America needs to wake up. We need to back up our president. We need to back up that thin blue line with a 3,000-mile red, white, and blue line, because it's there.
Right. And by the way, to the point of the statues, I think this is important because it's consistent, unfortunately, with this whole intimidation theme of the left right now, the intolerant left. The statues, here's one of the reasons that the statues topping them is important. It's a dress rehearsal, and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I tell you that. They will not be sated, these intolerant leftists. They will not be sated with trophies of marble and granite. They are coming for living, breathing human beings. Right now, they're doing it in terms of social ostracism, and they're doing it financially, but it will progress. I promise you that, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. I don't think I'm being paranoid to tell you that. It's also important to point out that Goya, thankfully, is a massive, successful company, can probably more than withstand. It may even help their sales, who knows. But there's a lot of small business people out there who are not in that situation. Right. They're not as wealthy as this family. They're not as successful as Goya. The New York Post today has a really important article that I encourage people to read. Crushing an Inwood eatery just because you didn't like how its owner voted. This is by David Marcus. And there is a cafe in Manhattan that is called the Indian Road Cafe. The owner, Thomas Bosco, was on MSNBC, and he admitted voting for Trump, and there's now a social media mob trying to boycott his restaurant in Manhattan.
We'll jump back to it as well after the break. Steve Cortez, want to get more of your thoughts on Black Lives Matter, what's going on in the cities across the United States, including your own Chicago, and what Don Lemon said last night as well about Jesus Christ. Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam. Be right back after this break.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows, and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive, and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on My Pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99. Or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
At Leaf Filter, we're on a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that?
I should.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room. Jack Maxey, Steve Cortez, Greg Manns, Raheem Kassam here in studio on Capitol Hill. Just very quickly, I want to get this out of the way because it's not something we should particularly be wasting our time on. But Don Lemon just keeps putting his foot in his mouth. And fresh off, I think, insulting Terry Crews on his show and saying Terry Crews shouldn't be addressing black-on-black crime in cities across America. Now his latest assault is on Jesus Christ. Let's play the clip.
Engaged in a discussion. But here's the thing. Jesus Christ, if that's who you believe in, Jesus Christ, admittedly was not perfect when he was here on this earth. So why are we deifying the founders of this country? Many of whom owned slaves, and in the Constitution, the original one, they didn't want, they put slavery in there, that slavery should be abolished because it was the way the king wanted. And then the Congress said, no way.
He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. But Don Lemon doesn't seem to know anything about Scripture, anything about Jesus Christ, but he will use his platform with the so-called Catholic Chris Cuomo nodding in agreement, nodding along there in that clip, to say that Jesus Christ was not perfect, gentlemen?
You know, yeah, I mentioned before, there's a giant country that CNN doesn't know between Brooklyn and Brentwood. And this clip is unfortunately emblematic of that. And look, I don't want to debate theology, obviously, with Don Lemon. To me, what this really points out politically is the aloofness, how separate they are, how little they know about this country. The fact that he wouldn't know that those of us who are Christian, tens and hundreds of millions of Americans, of course we believe Christ was perfect. And the way he said it offhandedly, like, well, of course, you know, he admittedly wasn't perfect. Like, wait, who admitted that? Again, so I think it's indicative of the aloofness, the separateness. And this is important, I think, for the deplorables out there to realize, and I'm not exaggerating, I think, when I say this, realize that corporate media hates you. They hate your values. They hate what you stand for. They don't care about your well-being. And in fact, they mock you with clips like this.
Jack, it's so obvious. It's in black and white. You must therefore be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect.
Well, the thing that bothers me the most is it shows two things concerning Don Lemon in particular and two things concerning the left in general. Number one, utter and absolute ignorance concerning any subject that a properly educated Western individual should know about, i.e. American history and the Christian faith. Don Lemon, could you imagine anybody getting on Fox News or any network and starting to make theological statements about Muhammad or any other religious leader in the world? People would lose their minds. This also shows you the absolute prejudice of the left against anybody of faith. And I know we talk about this a lot, this whole issue of this Maoist uprising that we're looking in the streets. Their objective is to kill your faith, kill your history, kill your family, and leave a stool with one leg that is incapable of defending that individual self. They are trying to destroy everything that makes this country wonderful. And the main thing about that is the elevation of the individual as a spiritual being created by God, who is the most important thing in our political system. They don't want it. This collectivist nature that they want to impose upon us, guess what? The weak will be dropped. Those who are not compliant will be dropped. Those who are in disagreement will be dropped. This is the nature of the revolution that they want.
So today the advice is buy beans and buy Bibles.
That's right.
and bullets.
There you go. Yeah, that's the third leg of the stool. I want to get into the carnage we're seeing across the United States now. You are from a place and live in a place rather that is marred by this on a nightly basis.
Right.
This is not something that we've seen in a very, very long time. And you've come on this show before, Steve Cortez, and you've talked us through this. But am I wrong in saying that this is not getting better?
Correct. No, absolutely. And by the way, there's no exaggeration to say that cities like Chicago, where I live, I've raised a family in the city of Chicago for 25 years. I love Chicago. It is, in my biased view, one of the greatest cities in the world, being utterly ruined by leftist blue state, blue city policies. That is the reality on the ground. Regarding public safety, it's a nightmare. The United States military literally sends some of its medics to Chicago ERs so that they can be trained in gunshot treatment before they are deployed to war zones overseas. That's how dire the situation is in Chicago. It's going to be hot this weekend. I fear we're going to have another one of these. I hope not. I pray not. But we probably will have another dreadful weekend in Chicago. Here's what I would also say, though. These are American citizens. So regardless of how dreadful Mayor Lightfoot is in Chicago and Governor Pritzker is in Illinois, these Americans need to be defended. And I implore President Trump, he has said we stand ready to assist, and that is wonderful, of course, but these leaders, these local leaders, are so arrogant that they will not ask for help from President Trump. They detest him that much. They hate him much more than they love their constituents and the safety of their constituents. So I think federal action, unfortunately, is an imperative. For example, our local state's attorney, most places call it a district attorney, our local prosecutor in Chicago is not charging some of the rioters, the George Floyd rioters who attacked police. They were arrested and charged by the police, but they're not going to be prosecuted. I would like to see the Department of Justice go and arrest these people. There are federal charges that can be brought against them. I think that would be a great show of force, solidarity with the police, and concern for the safety of the citizens of Chicago.
Got about 90 seconds left here, and I just want to put you on the spot a little bit. With all of this carnage taking place across Democrat-run cities, Democrat-run states, why are the polls the way they are?
Right. What you mean, and particularly in those cities or just nationally?
I mean, nationally.
Yeah. Look, here's the situation. America right now, I think we need to be honest about this. America's in a sour mood because of what happened to this country because of the CCP virus, right? We have tens of millions of people out of work. We have a lot of people who have either been ill or are worried that they're going to be ill. That's always difficult for an incumbent. It just is, okay? That doesn't mean that any of it is logically Donald Trump's fault. It's not. It's the fault of the CCP, and he has been tougher on the CCP than any American leader in history. But regardless, it's a challenge for those of us who are working for the re-election effort of President Trump. We have to recognize that the country right now, again, because of outside actions, the country is in a difficult place. But again, we have to number one, identify and define our opponent, Joe Biden, the radical that he really is, and then also give the roadmap for the way out, the great American recovery, which has already commenced economically. We need to also do it regarding safety.
Steve Cortez, I know you got to bounce after this hour, but please tell our audience where they can find out more about you and listen to you and follow your MAGA Minute.
You bet, please. So follow me at Cortez Steve, Cortez with an S. I also have a radio show every day in Chicago, 5 to 7 p.m., AM 560 The Answer. You can stream it online.
Steve Cortez, we're always grateful to have him here. Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, Stephen K. Bannon, and more. We'll return with more War Room Pandemic in the next hour. Episode 274 starts in just 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo